So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the next instalment of our Just2easy training session for this academic year. So my name is Nikki Kimball. I'm one of the educational consultants here at Just2easy, and in today's session, we're going to have a look at art meets tech, so unleashing student creativity with Just2easy. Now, I love this session. I designed this session last year, and nobody turned up. So I'm quite excited to actually be able to deliver this session because it is one of my favourite things to do with the kids, is to unleash that creativity and to incorporate art aspects into your computing or your ICT curriculum. So a bit of session housekeeping. I think most of you, by the looks of the names, have been on my sessions before, so you'll probably know the drill, but just in case. Sessions scheduled for 4:15 finish, so it's a 45-minute session. You are muted, but you can ask questions via the chat, so thank you for helping me check that my chat function is working. Please feel free, I've got it open on my second screen. I will try and keep an eye on that, so if you have any questions, just feel free to pop them in the chat. I will do a Q&A session at the end, should you have any further questions. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which is Just2easy TV, which I'll give you details for a bit later. Right, so what are we going to have a think about today? So we're going to start off with some digital photography. So I'm going to show you how to take photos using the photo tool, and then to edit those using the camera tools. And these sort of editing tools are slightly hidden, but there are some really nice features in there that you can start to explore that digital photography and photography editing. So adding filters and that kind of thing. Then we're really going to focus mostly on JIT paint. And I'm going to show you just the basics, of adding paint, the different texture tools that you've got, the color picker. Then we'll look at adding sort of characters, creating and sharing colouring in sheets, and drawing on top of photographs. And then I'm going to highlight some library activities that we've got that are ready to go, ready for you to use. So things like pixel art, scratch art, designing book covers, self-portraits, digital collages, silhouette art, all that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to signpost you about where you can access further support and a Q&A session. So let's get started, shall we? Right, so we are going to start with the digital photography. And there is a fantastic tool from your Launchpad, and it's just the photo tool. Now, the reason I like the photo tool personally, it's very, very simple. So even for your littlest users, you could use this in nursery or reception quite easily, because there is just one button for them to press. They can take some quite good photos. And what's nice about those photos is they do automatically save into your My Files as a user. So if the kids have opened up the photo app, you can click on photo, click save, and it saves into their My Files. So they don't have to upload anything. So let's have a quick look, first of all, at how we can take photos. So as I said, it is the photo app. So there are three kind of evidence capturing tools, as we call them. So photo, video, microphone, they all work in the same way. They've got a very simple interface. So we can click that, and you're going to see my not so messy dining room behind me, because I've cleared it for the live lesson I did this morning. It's all over there. And as I said, you've got that very simple, just press the button. And you've also got, what I didn't realise is they've got the change camera. So if you are using an iPad, that will change it to a front facing or a selfie. So you've got the option there to change the camera. Now, because I'm accessing this on a laptop, that won't do anything. There we go. So I'll X that out, and let's refresh that page. And there we go, hasn't broken, it's okay. So that's just for your tablets or things that have got dual cameras. And then you're just going to click on this button here. And there we go. Lovely picture. So very simple. And as I said, you've got that save to. You can change the file name and you can click save. Now, if you are working with the younger students, or maybe you've got a photo that you've taken that you want all of the students to have an access to, you can use, I did that very quickly. You can click on this little double arrow button here, and then you can select which students you want to share that with. So I might want to just share that with my class, and I can select those students that I want to select it with. And that's a little bit annoying, isn't it? You should have a whole class button at the top, so I might tell them that. But there we go. So you can select all of the students in your class and click OK. We can change that. So that might be, I don't know, class photo. Feb 3rd, for example, and click save. And that has now saved a copy of that into all of their files as well. So, you know, if you're going to do things like if you're creating art, maybe going on a digital art walk around the school, maybe you've gone out on a school trip, maybe you've taken photos as a teacher at the weekend that you want them to use, you could take those within your account and then save them, add all the users, and that will save a copy ready for them to import and use into things like JIT Paint. So that is an option. Okay, so that's how we can use the camera. Now, I like to give examples of what I would do if I was back in school. iPads, if you do have access to iPads, iPads do have some fantastic digital photography features. So personally, what I would do is I would start with teaching the basics of photography with this. And then if you are working with the older students, I would get them to use, if you have access to iPads, I get them to use the iPad camera. Now, the reason I say that is because it's got things like the grids. So there's, I'm trying to think what it's called. The rule of thirds, I think it is. So on an iPad, it has 9 blocks. So it's got the rule of thirds. So if you're going to do proper digital photography, look that up. And it's all about putting things in 1/3 of the screen or 2/3 of the screen to add interest. So they can use things like that. They can use forced exposure. They can use things like, what did I used to do? Forced perspective. So that was a really nice photography activity. So I'll show you here. So it's things like if you had like a car in the background on that table, so you kind of position that. I'm trying to do it, it's not going so well. So if I had a car there in the background, and it would look like I've got a small car. Okay, so you can start doing things like that. So that's a really nice activity if you wanted to something a bit different to do. So there we go. So that is taking a photograph. And then to add effects, we're going to go here to where it says looking for the old camera. So as I said, it's not overly obvious, but you're going to click on that. And that's going to bring us into our effects. So you don't have to take a photograph prior to adding the effects, but I would teach that as a discrete skill, how to take a good photograph, because what you will get is you'll have the kids taking photos like this, taking them really far away, moving them at the same time because they're, you know, their little hands and they're trying to click the button in the middle. So you might want to think about, especially if you're doing not just photography but filming, tripods. I got, I think, a class set of tripods for school, which aren't cheap. They're about 20-30 quid each, but they were really useful. Or if you've got stands for the kids. So all of that will help the quality of their photographs. So I would teach the discrete skills, and then you can start using this bit where you're adding in the effects. So we can take a photograph directly in. So we've got that button there. You can also add photos from your My Files. If I click on that, there we go. So that will automatically link to my files. So there's that photo we took earlier. Now, if you took the photo as a teacher and shared it over to your pupils, they would access that through the shared files area. So this button here. Okay, so as a pupil, that's where they would find that. You can also upload. So if you have taken it in the iPad, there we go. So if you have taken it in the iPad and you're then using this, you can use that button there, click the choose files, and that is going to link to your photo library. Now this is linked into my hard drive, so these are screenshots. So I could add those and start adding effects if I wanted to, or if they've created it somewhere else, maybe they've taken it on a digital camera and they want to add it in. So there's lots of uses, lots of opportunities here. And they've also got the option to search for images. So maybe you don't want to do just digital photography. Maybe you want to look for, maybe we're creating a background for a Gruffalo story that we're doing. So we could find a forest picture and then add some effects onto that. Okay, so there's lots and lots of opportunities there. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove that keyword in that search there. There we go. And there's that picture. So I'm going to add that picture in, that lovely selfie. And what we can do is down the right hand side, we've got all of our effects. So these will layer. Okay, so that's important to remember. So if you add one and you don't like it, you kind of need to remove it before you move on to the next one. So if I look at circle smear, and I don't like that, I think it's right. Had to remind myself. So this one here, this button, that is the undo button. So that will undo the last effect that you've added. Okay. This one here will reset the original picture. So it really depends on how horribly wrong they've gone. If they just want to undo the last step, it's that one and resetting. And then on some of the effects, they also have a slider. So this kind of increases like the, my brain has stopped, increases the strength. Now, this is what middle-aged is to you, I'm afraid. But you get what I mean. Intensity, that is the word. It's been a long day. That is the intensity of that particular filter. Okay, so we can make it quite a gentle filter or quite vicious. And there we go. And you can layer these up. So there are lots to choose from. Lots and lots and lots and lots. Some of the nice ones I quite like are things like sepia. So these are great, maybe if you've been out on a school trip. So one of the, knowing that there's a Birmingham school here, we used to go and do a day trip to the Dudley, the Living Museum in Dudley, where it's set in the Victorian times. So we'd go, the kids would dress up, we'd take pictures, and then we'd go back and we would edit the photos to make it look like they were in the Victorian times in, you know, sepia or black and white. And we might add in, you know, some more like lens oh no, we don't want that one. Line smear, maybe make it a little bit jaggedy so it does look like it's kind of like an old photo. Gamma. And there you go. Okay. So there are a lot. Black Country Living Museum. Thank you. It's on the tip of my tongue. Yes. So things like that. If you're taking the kids out, you know, for nice activities, where they're dressing up and they can add in effects and that kind of thing. There's other things that we can do. So kaleidoscope. So this is really nice if you really do want to make a really weird image. You know, if you want the kids to be really creative and distort this image completely. We've got things like kaleidoscope. And this will pull nicely into kind of things like your symmetry in your, it's a bit of a tenuous link, but symmetry in your maths curriculum. I used to do some nice things where the kids we'd create physical collages. Can you tell I used to like doing art with my kids? Physical collages. So I used to buy stuff from Hobbycraft, like random stuff, like little paper roses, like the little hearts that you stick on cards. What else? Fir cones. I used to go out and collect stuff and bring them in, or we used to go and do like scavenger hunts. Then give them a big A3 white piece of paper, give them the iPads, they take photographs, and then they start editing them and adding like proper effects. And I used to challenge them to make it look as unlike the original photo as possible. And some of the stuff they used to do was phenomenal. Absolutely used to blow my mind. And I used to do that with year 1s and 2s, and they just would be engrossed in that for an hour. And it was one of those lessons where you'd kind of try and get them to wrap up and they would just kind of try and ignore you. Like, no, I can't hear you, miss. So yeah, so there's lots of things that you can do with this. And then when you're done, you just click save, which is this button here. Okay, so we can save that. And that's going to save that distorted photo to their My Files. Now they can, let's undo that so I can save that. Why is it not letting me save it? I should be able to save it. Let's add in, there we go. So I've added in another effect and I can save that. So you can keep editing that photo, adding more effects, and you can keep saving the different variations. Okay, so have a look at that and just have a play. And they get that kind of nice reel at the bottom where they've got like the different images and they can see them side by side, which is quite nice as well. Okay, and just to show you, just in case you are brand new to Just2easy, there it is in my files, and that's where the students would find it as well. So they've got their sort of camera options, and there we go. Okay, let's get into the actual fun stuff now. So JIT Paint, we are going to focus on JIT Paint. I'm going to start with a very, very simple picture, just to show you the basics, just to make sure that you know that they're all there, and then we'll get into the more intricate stuff. So JIT Paint, it's part of the JIT toolkit, which is the Just2easy infant toolkit, which is a toolkit of 8 tools. So if you are brand new to the site, I don't think you are, looking at the names in the list. I forgot where I was going with that. If you are new to it, then you will find that there are 8 tools there. So if I open up JIT, and it always opens up in Write, and we're going to go to Paint. So Paint is a lovely blue screen here. Okay, so get a blue surround. So if they've got a different colour, they're in a different place. They're doing something that you haven't told them to. And it will always open up, sort of prompting you to choose a template. Okay, so we do have some clip art templates. And you can scroll down. You've got loads there. Now you've also got some colouring in sheets, which we are going to look at shortly. Now these are nice, A, for printing out if you wanted to, but B, they're great for kind of tying in your art, but also your digital skills. So they're really good for mouse control. So if you are working with year ones, I've done that lesson. It is like pulling teeth, where you're trying to teach them the difference between left click and right click and moving the mouse and left clicking and getting it precise. And it is really tricky for them. So these are nice as a kind of tenuous link to the computing curriculum as well. But I'll show you how to create your own colouring in sheets. And then as we scroll down, we've got things like a map, treasure, and a transparent background and another map. So we're going to use that a bit later. So I'm going to scroll up again. So we can choose any of these as a background. Now, the other thing that we can do is we can add in from pictures. So there's our pictures that we chose earlier. So, you know, if you wanted to add in some more art over the top, some clip art maybe, you can do that there. There's the shared files. So again, that is how the students, if you have saved a file and added it into their My Files, that is where the students would find it, in the shared files. You've also got the Google search function. So this features quite heavily in all of our tools. And what's really nice is it ties in nicely with the kind of digital literacy side of things, you know, being able to keyword search, searching for things, understanding that it passes through a safe search and that some of them might be filtered out. So this is a Google safe search, a Google search with a safe search filter. So for example, let's go for forest like we've looked at before. We can add a forest background to create some forest art if you wanted to. Okay. You'll notice we've got an all button and a line art. So that is how we can add in. They don't look very line arty, do they? We'll reflect back on that, but that should be where you get some colouring in sheets. You can load images. So again, if you've saved it somewhere else, if it's on an iPad hard photo library, if it's on your hard drive, that's where you would kind of upload or import images. And then you've got the photo feature. So you can take a photo and that will add it into the background. So there's lots of options for that. You know, you can use those clip art backgrounds or the photographs. They're really nice if you want to draw over the top, which we're going to look at in the next activity. But I am going, what am I going to do? What shall I do? Let's go for, I'm going to go for Desert Island because I never use this background. So Desert Island. There we go. So I'm going to start from the very basics with the little ones. We can do things like drawing. So I can click on any of these colours. I've got 11 preset colours and I can just start drawing if I wanted to. You of course have the undo button. And you also have the fill button. So we've got a paint button and a fill button. So I'm going to click on the fill tool, which is a little paint pot. Click and that will fill that in. Okay, whatever that is. Okay. Easy peasy so far. Then to build it up a little bit, we've got our eraser tool. And again, this works as a fill tool or as a paint. So we can erase anything that we've added. Okay. And then to take it even further, we've got these two buttons at the bottom. And I'm going to just zoom in just so you can see a little bit better. We've got our 3D texture tool and our color picker. So let's start with the color picker today. Okay, so you can see on the bottom of both of these tools I've got a little white circle. So these will, if I click on that little white pipette, that's going to open up my color wheel. So this does link really nicely with your art curriculum, because obviously you need to talk about the color wheel, the different colors that we have available, things like shade, darkness, intensity, saturation. You can start using all of these words at an age appropriate level, obviously. So we can choose maybe red. So we've got all the colours around the wheel on the outside to red. And then within that colour, you can then start picking shades. So you can see it's sort of the dark end of the scale and the light end of the scale is up here. We've got sort of grey and going to brown. And that's the same for all of the colours. Okay, so you can really fine tune and pinpoint exactly which shade it is that you want to use. So that's one way to use this tool. And then another way, which I think not many people know this, but we do have a color picker. So you can choose a color around the color wheel, or you can hover over any aspect of that particular photo. So for example, let's go for this dark green color here. Okay, I can click on that and that has selected that out of the color wheel for me. So I can click OK, and it now means I can draw with this particular color. So I could add another leaf to that tree, which looks horrendous, but you get the idea. And I can click undo. So it could be maybe that I want to match, I don't want my trees to have shade. So I'm going to click on that shade color, click OK, use my fill tool and fill that island in. So there we go. So it looks like it's all in shade now. So I'm going to undo that because I think it did look quite good. But that is an option. So you can color pick. So let's have a look at the 3D texture tool. Again, I'm going to click on that little white button. So this time it's a roller. So I'm just going to show you. So it's a roller instead of a pipette. I'm going to click on that. And we've got lots of 3D texture tools that we can use. And there's loads to choose from. So the one I generally use for water is this one, but we've got things like bricks. There's 3 different types of bricks. So these are really nice for the little ones if they, you're doing maybe our house, our home kind of topic. They can, draw their own house, and they've got 3 different textures. And they can scroll down. We've got wood, we've got these tiles for roofs, Lego, and then different sort of textures as we get towards the bottom. So they are really nice. Cardboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this one. And again, this will work as a paintbrush, or we can fill using that texture. So it does look really nice, actually. And there we go. There is our image. Now, the last thing that we can do with our photos, with our pictures, is we can add our clip art. So we've got whichever clip art library links to this particular background. It just happens to be fairy tales, which is a bit of an odd mix. Never realised it opened with fairy tales. But we can use these right and left arrows here. So I might have a shark, so I can click on my shark, add him into the water over there, and I can keep clicking. So there we go. So I've got some pirates. I can make those smaller and keep clicking. Oh, I've got more pirates, which means I must have an X somewhere. Treasure, brilliant. And an X marks the spot. And there we go. Okay, so there is my picture, and you can keep going, keep adding if you wanted to. Now, the last thing just to point out before we save and move on to something different, that you've got the record audio feature at the top. Now, this is a really nice way of capturing evidence. So especially for your little ones, you know, it's a nice way of them maybe reflecting on their learning, to give some self-assessment. You know, 2 stars a wish, what did you do well, what will you do differently next time, or maybe just talking about what their picture shows. Maybe they've written a story to go with it, so you know, they could say Pirate Island and start reciting what they've written. So there's lots of nice ties with this, and the record button is we just click there, click the record, Pirate Island by Miss Kimball, and then click stop and click OK. And that links that sound bite then to that particular Pirate Island by Miss Kimball. And I think that has, I will have to double check actually. I think it has a 4-minute limit, so it is a very long file length. Don't quote me on. It's definitely more than 2 minutes. So there we go. And then you can rename that. Obviously, best practice. So Pirate Island. And then we hit save, which is this button here. They get a little saving circle so that it shows them that something's happening, and it grays out so they can see my file has saved. I can close it if I want to. And that has saved as a paint file. Now, if you wanted to use that in anything else, if you want to use this as a background in JIT Write or JIT Turtle or JIT Chart or JIT Mix, or you want to use this in J2 Create as an image, you do have the option here to save as image. Okay, so if I click that, that's going to save into my files as an image. Okay, so that's great if you're doing things like maybe a comic book strip. So you could create all the imagery in JIT Paint, save as image, and then add in things like speech bubbles or power bubbles into J2 Create. So that is an option. And then this button here is slightly different, and I'm going to save that for a second actually. Let's leave that for now. Just know that that right hand button is save as image. So I will just show you my files so that we've got the 2 different images. Okay, so this is what they will end up with. So this is Pirate Island. So if your students are doing this, you'd find it in their pupil files, of course. So if I click on Pirate, not Pupil Island, Pirate Island, that opens that up into Paint again. Okay, so the children can keep editing. So that is a nice feature of that. This one, if I click on this, that is just the flat image. So especially if the children have finished the image completely, that just saves it. So even if it's edited, you know, even if the original is edited further, maybe the kids have gone home, they've taken the QR code and logged in and then kept on painting on the same image, at least you've got that flat image for evidence, for example. Okay, and you can QR code that. So if I go to my green eye, I've got the option to QR code. So this is a great way of showcasing art without printing it off, because that is going to cost you a lot of money. If you're going to print 30 of those off, that's going to cost an absolute fortune. So you can QR code. So that was green eye, QR code, and this we've now set it so it will open up in view format or view only. And then what I would do is I would click on this publish button, as long as there's no images or no kids' names in there. Click publish. Doesn't publish it anywhere, but what it will do is I'm just going to open up the camera app on my phone. I'm going to scan that and click on the little pop-up that comes up. And there we go. So hopefully you can see that is that image. So if you imagine, you know, you've got a whole display board of digital art, you've printed all these off, you've got them on the, you've got them up on the board, or you could send these home in a newsletter, or you can print them out in a book. So maybe you've done a, art with literacy project. So you could have these printed and popped in the book. So that is an option. I have gone off on a tangent, as per usual. So those are the basic features. So adding and editing backgrounds, adding pictures, drawing, use the different tools, adding clip art images, saving and exporting. Okay. Colouring in sheets in Jit Paint. So it does allow you to add line drawings. Looks like it might be a little bit broken at the moment. Use those fill tools to colour in and save and export. So I'm going to start a new one of these. I'm going to go to this little asterisk here. And I'm going to go to pictures. And I'm going to go again to that Google search, the globe button. And let's have a think about dinosaurs, and let's see what comes up. So I'm going to hit enter. So those are all of my images, and then we're going to pray to the technology gods. I'm going to click on the green line art button. Yeah, it's not working, is it? And there should be lots of images like this that crop up. But it looks a little bit broken at the moment. Let's try another keyword and just double check. Mini beast. I probably should be a bit more specific. Ladybird. Let's go for ladybird. Ah, there were some then. And then we wait and wait. There we go. Okay. So it is working. Maybe you need to type the word. Maybe you need to click on line art first and add it, but you shouldn't have to. So there we go. So we've got some ladybirds that we can colour in and that we can use as a background. So let's look. Oh, this one's cute. So we click on the one that we want to choose. God, I love a live demo. Let's try that one more time before we give up. I'll try a different one this time. Ladybird. Let's try this one and hope for the best. Or not that one. Let's choose this one. There we go. So that's what should have happened. I don't know what went wrong with the last one. And we can use the fill tools, of course. Now, as a teacher, if you wanted to create that as a template for your students, you would save it and then share it through your My Files area. Okay, so we could have ladybird colouring, save that, and then you would go to your My Files, go to your not going very well today, is it? Should be. I mean, I should be able to go click on the green eye, go to share, and then use the drop-down list to choose your class to share that with, so they can have access to that. Okay, so I'm going to use my little fill tool just to show you we can fill this in. Use our black, fill in our dots, use our texture tool. And there we go. There's a lovely picture already. You can, of course, print these out if you wanted to and have them as a colouring in, a non-digital colouring picture. So that's an option as well. So that's how you can create colouring in sheets in Jit Paint. Right, we're going to have a look at creating stamps or characters in Jit Paint. So this is this transparent background I was sort of talking about earlier that I'll show you. We can add things on top of that to then create this kind of character that we can add into other activities. So this is an example. This is my very hungry caterpillar. This took me ages. One very boring summer's afternoon, I think it was. But then I used this to create lots and lots of very hungry caterpillar resources. So I've done like counting activities. I've done like a story and an animation using this as a little character. Okay, so I'm going to close down all these Jit pages because I think that's causing an issue. So let's have a look. So we're going to open up Paint again, and this time we're going to scroll right down to the bottom until we get to transparent. Now this is the type of thing that I would do with probably year 3 could probably do it quite well. It's just the understanding behind why you would do it and then how you would use the stamp on top. So definitely year 4s and above. So key stage 2, which is your P5s and above. Okay, if you're in Northern Ireland. So we're going to open up transparent background. And this time I'm just going to do a teddy bear just because it's quicker than having to choose, 15 different shades of green. So I'm going to choose, and I'm going to do exactly the same as I did earlier. So I'm just going to, draw. So I'm going to draw my teddy. I'm going to give him a pink belly in a second. And 2 ears. Pink belly. Now, what you do need to be aware of when you are using a transparent background is we will do something called save as stamp. Now, when you save a stamp, it basically removes everything that is white. So don't use white on these images, okay? Now, the way around it is if you choose white, then use your little pipette tool and just change it for slightly off-white colour. So if you're doing things like eyes, just use off-white, and then it won't remove it. I have done that a few times and thought, oh, what did I do that for? So here we go. I'm going to make him slightly cross-eyed, and let's give him a little. There we go, and there we go. There is my bear. So I might want to use him on other things like JIT paint. JIT animate as a character. I might want to use him in a J2 create book. So I'm going to press, instead of pressing save as image, I'm going to click save as stamp. That's going to save that to my files. Okay, so just to show you how I can then use that. So this is a J2 create page. Okay, so if I wanted to use that image, I would just click on the wee green man, as Mary calls him, the pictures tool. And there's my teddy bear, so I can drag him onto the page, and there he has no background. So he looks lovely. And obviously, you could, for example, we could add in my good old forest. So let's add forest. Now, because these are images and I'm going to layer them up, I need to push that back down. So I'm going to click on that, and I've got my layering tool here. And there we go. I've pushed him down, I've pushed the bear up, and then we could have him in the forest, and I could write a story underneath. So that's a very quick and easy art and literacy activity that you've got right there. Okay, so that's how you would use your stamps or your characters in JIT Paint. Last little bit, editing photographs in JIT Paint. Now this was, I say this about everything, but it was probably one of my favourite activities to do with the kids. If you've done enough of my webinars, you'll know I say that at least once every webinar. But it was just because of the engagement of the children, how much they love to do this. So they were looking at superheroes as a half-term topic. So in this activity, we did one session on how to take a selfie and how to take it well. So they worked in pairs and they took a photograph where we did just from the shoulders up. So it had to be a close-up, which has nice links into filmmaking if you have to do that as a unit of work later on in the primary. It was usually my year 4 class. So we would take a close-up, so they'd have to take it properly, not be blurry, looking straight on into the camera. So we'd have that as a session. They'd then import that into, it was a different software, but we would import it into JIT Paint as a background, draw over the top of it, and then export that as an image, and then import. So this is imported into J2 Paint and J2 Write. So then we wrote over the top of it as well. Okay, so this is kind of a 3-lesson session. But let's have a look. How did we do that? So I'm going to start a new JIT Paint. And this time I'm going to add in that picture of me that I took. Now, a bit of a clue. In fact, I'm going to take a picture. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit, which means I'm going to pull my laptop a bit closer. There we go. And I'm going to click OK. Not quite sure where that went. Oh, I'm going to click on the photo button. There we go. And click OK. And that's going to add that as a background. Now, I will give you a tip. If you are going to do this as an activity with your students, have them stand against a blank background. So get them up against your whiteboard with it being off, or if you've got a green screen, fantastic, stand them up against that. If you've got just a blank wall space, I mean, even looking at my house, I don't think I've got many blank wall spaces. But the blanker the background, the better it is. And the reason why is you don't really want them as a superhero to be, you know, against a panelled wall. So what you can do is kind of blank that out. So you get them to use a colour of some description, or like a textured background maybe. So let's like have this, and then you're going to kind of just draw around the outside and blank that out. Okay, so much like this image here, that's what we did. So she was against a white wall, and there we go. Now, if it is a really plain background, you can then use the fill tool instead. Whereas because this is patterned, can you see? When I fill it in, it won't do it. Whereas if it's more of a like this, there we go. So that shows you. So as long as it's got no sort of shade, you can then, it will fill it in much easier, and it save you time. Depends on how long you want the children to spend on this. So, you know, if you want a nice quiet 20 minutes where they're just drawing around themselves with a really small pen, then by all means, crack on. So that's just a little tip for you. And then we can get our kids to draw over the top. So we're just going to add in our superhero mask. So this doesn't have to be a superhero topic. You know, you can draw over any image and turn it into something different. But there we go. You can, of course, make that into a whole like headdress thing. Let's just make that bigger to make it into like a whole mask, like the Spider-Man. Let myself down. I don't really know my superheroes very well. And then we can start drawing over the top. So I might have an S there. That's awful. But you get the idea. So you can draw over the top of that image. And then, of course, you'd click save. That will save into your My Files. If you want to use it in anything else, you would click that save as image button. Okay, so these are just some activities, and this was actually done in a live lesson, so I will show you where those are. So if you look for, I think, superheroes in the library, this will come up with a file example, a link to the live lesson, and I think a tutorial possibly where I've told you how to do it, I think. So have a look in the library for superhero. Okay. I've got 2 minutes to rush through all of these. So these are our library tools that we have, or our library files that we have available for art. So some pixel art, again, one of my favourite activities. No, I did do this with a class, and they loved it, and they spent hours on it. And it was one of those activities. I knew it was successful because at least 2 of the children went away and repeated it in their spare time. So that's when you know it's successful, when they're doing it off their own bat. So these are just little boxes. They use the fill tool to create an image. Okay, so just to give you an example, here we go. And you can look it up in the library. Pixel art, we've got a Christmas one, a Halloween one, and just a regular one. So this gives you an example. So we've used the green, the black, left the rest white. So that gives you just an idea of what you could do. This is a draggable shape picture. So again, all of these, just look for this word and that you'll find it. So that's nice. That's nice tie-in with your maths curriculum, shapes, colours, great for your younger students, for getting them to have a look and reflecting, you know, the world is made up of shapes. What shape is a house? What shape is a cloud? So we've used lots of circles for the cloud. What shape is the sun? So that's a good link into art and maths. Scratch art, So this is black screen. They use the eraser tool, so it's much like, I mean, we had them back in the 80s. We used to use, like a metal pen to scratch it away. So this is a digital version of that. So just look for scratch art, and designing a book cover. So again, nice links into your literacy curriculum. They could design their own book or reflect on a book that they've read and design a cover for it. Self-portraits. So that links into a live lesson. So that is in the library as well, self-portraits. Silhouette art, so we've got these silhouettes, so they use the black tool to draw over the top. So that's a really nice activity, especially around Halloween. And digital collages, so there's examples of both of these. So these are made in Jit Paint for this one. I think they're both Jit Paint. I think there's possibly one for J2 Create as well. So there we go, almost bang on time. So if you do need to get in touch with us, edteam@j2e.com, that comes through to Charlie, Mary, and myself. I'm Nikki, despite what my name says underneath my screen. Facebook and X, formerly known as Twitter, just look for us, Just2easy. And if you do any activities with your students, please, and you post them on social media, tag them, because I have had teachers sort of contact me and say, oh, we did this, we put it on social media, like just in conversation, and they hadn't tagged us, so we hadn't seen it. And it is a shame, because I do love seeing what you are creating as teachers. Then finally, Just2easy TV. So last little bit before you go, we have created this brand new teachers area. You may or may not have seen it arrive on your launch pad. If you are joining us from Wales, which I think at least one person is, this might be there at the moment. It might be coming soon. So if it's not there, it should be soon. So we're going to click on the teachers area. So this is kind of where you can access everything that you need as a teacher in one place. So we've got the what's on, so that's how you can book further training if you wanted to. You have a direct link to our YouTube channel. J2 dashboard if you need to make any edits in your admin area. There's the support articles. You can book 15-minute video calls with any of us on the team. And also there's tip of the week, and there's some getting started ideas. So here is where you'll book your training. Here is where you would, and live lessons. And here is where you can access all of the recorded stuff. Last little bit. So our webinars are here. So this will be available here shortly. Our live lesson recording. So I did one this morning on Safer Internet Day, where we trained about 2,000 students. So that is there. We're doing one in the morning for Key Stage 2 for Safer Internet Day. I know it's next week, but we thought we'd get ahead of the game and have it there so it's available on recording. So if you are celebrating Safer Internet Day next week, you can access the recordings here in the live lessons. Okay. If you want to book on for tomorrow's, then you can go to the what's on. And it is this one here, Safer Internet Day, Key Stage 2. We've got loads coming up. So photo editing is coming up. Jungle animations, World Book Day, which I haven't planned yet, digital writing, jungle programming, vector drawing. So we have got some quite arty ones coming up. So that is everything that you need to know. So have we got any questions at all? Please feel free to pop them in the chat. But thank you ever so much for giving up your precious time. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that you have taken something away. And as I said, please tag me and stuff, because I get a bit of a thrill when I see the kids making stuff. I live my teaching life vicariously through you guys nowadays. And thank you so much for the feedback. So, okay, I will hang around for 30 seconds or so to see if there's any questions. If not, feel free to go.